There's nothing quite like Embarkation Day. After months of planning, counting down, and imagining yourself on board, you finally see the ship sitting at the terminal. And in that moment, it feels like your vacation has officially begun. But here's the problem. The first hour on board is when most passengers make the mistakes that end up creating stress, frustration, and sometimes expensive problems that follow them for the rest of the cruise. They get caught in long lines, miss important opportunities, make avoidable decisions, and start their vacation completely unprepared. But that doesn't have to be you. Today, we're revealing the 12 things you should never do when you first board a cruise ship. These are the mistakes experienced cruisers avoid and the simple strategies that help them start their vacation calmer, smarter, and far more prepared than most people on board. And make sure you stay until mistake number 7. It involves a setting on your phone that seems completely harmless, but it has left some passengers with shocking bills of over $1,000 by the end of their cruise. Let's get started and make sure your vacation begins the right way. Number 1. Never gamble on a same-day flight. Number 1. The same-day flight gamble. Let's start with the biggest gamble in cruising, and it happens before you ever step foot on the ship. It's the temptation to fly in on the same day your cruise departs. I understand why so many people do it. It seems like the perfect plan. You save money on a hotel, avoid taking an extra day off work, and head straight from the airport to the port. On paper, it sounds efficient. In reality, it's one of the riskiest decisions you can make. Today's flights are incredibly unpredictable. It only takes one delayed departure, one mechanical issue, a crew shortage, or a bad weather system somewhere along your route for your plans to completely unravel. And when that happens, you're no longer racing to catch a flight. You're racing to catch a cruise ship. And here's the hard truth: the ship will not wait. Cruise lines operate on strict schedules, and if you arrive after the final boarding time, your vacation could literally sail away without you. Imagine standing in an airport, staring at a departure board, knowing you've spent thousands of dollars on a trip that's leaving without you. Unfortunately, it happens more often than people realize. That's why experienced cruisers follow one simple rule: always fly in the day before your cruise. This isn't just another travel tip. It's probably the single best way to eliminate embarkation day stress. Instead of anxiously watching the clock and praying your flight lands on time, you'll wake up refreshed, already in the port city, with a calm and leisurely morning ahead of you. You can enjoy breakfast, double-check your luggage, and head to the terminal knowing that your vacation is truly about to begin. And here's an extra tip that many seasoned cruisers swear by: look for pre-cruise hotel packages. In cities like Orlando and many other major cruise ports, several companies offer packages that combine your hotel stay with airport and cruise terminal transfers. Suddenly, what could have been a stressful travel day becomes something much better. Your vacation doesn't start when you board the ship. It starts the night before. Number 2. Getting your arrival time wrong. When you check in for your cruise, one of the first things you'll be asked to do is select an arrival time. Most people click a time slot without giving it much thought. That's a mistake, because that simple choice can completely change the way your embarkation day feels. Here's why. Cruise terminals process thousands of passengers in just a few hours. To keep things organized, cruise lines assign arrival windows designed to spread people out and prevent massive crowds from showing up all at once. And yet, every cruise, plenty of passengers ignore their selected time. This is actually one of the most debated topics among experienced cruisers. Officially, the advice is simple: arrive at the time you selected. Those arrival windows exist for a reason, and showing up too early can contribute to longer lines and unnecessary congestion for everyone. But here's where things get interesting. Many seasoned cruisers will tell you that arrival times aren't always strictly enforced. Some people show up early and walk right in without any issues. Others arrive early and end up waiting outside the terminal. That's why the real mistake isn't arriving early. The mistake is arriving early and assuming you'll immediately board the ship. There's no guarantee. The safest approach is to stick with your assigned time. But if you decide to arrive earlier, do it with the understanding that you may have to wait. The key is deciding what kind of experience you want. Some travelers love arriving as early as possible. Why? Because it gives them extra hours on board. They can explore the ship while it's still relatively quiet, grab lunch before the buffet gets crowded, take photos, and start enjoying the amenities long before many passengers even arrive. For them, boarding early feels like gaining an extra day of vacation. But not everyone enjoys that approach. Some cruisers intentionally arrive later. By boarding around 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they often avoid the biggest crowds, encounter shorter lines, and sometimes find that their stateroom is already available. Instead of waiting around with their luggage, they can simply walk on board, head straight to their cabin, unpack, and settle in at a much more relaxed pace. Neither strategy is right or wrong. The mistake is not having a strategy at all. Because when you understand your arrival time and use it to your advantage, embarkation day becomes smoother, calmer, and far more enjoyable. And speaking of things that can completely change your first few hours on board, there's one item many passengers accidentally leave behind. And forgetting it can make embarkation day far more inconvenient than it needs to be. Number 3. Don't forget your carry-on bag. Number 3. Not packing an essential carry-on. When you arrive at the cruise terminal, one of the first things you'll notice is a line of porters waiting to take your luggage. It's a great service. Within seconds, they'll tag your suitcases, load them onto carts, and send them on their way to the ship. And that's exactly where many first-time cruisers make a big mistake. They hand over everything. Never do that. Before you let your large suitcases disappear, you should always pack a smaller carry-on bag with your essentials. Here's why. The moment you give your luggage to the porter, it enters the ship's loading process. Your bags will travel through security screening, sorting areas, and multiple handling points before eventually making their way to your cabin. And that process takes time. Sometimes your luggage arrives in the afternoon. Sometimes it's early evening. And occasionally, it takes even longer. The point is simple. Once those bags leave your hands, you may not see them again for several hours. That means anything you need during the first part of your cruise should stay with you. Your passport, your cruise documents, your medications, your wallet, your jewelry, your phone chargers and electronics. Anything valuable or irreplaceable should never leave your sight. It's also smart to pack a few comfort items. Bring a swimsuit if you want to enjoy the pool right away. Pack a change of clothes if you prefer to freshen up before dinner. Experienced cruisers often begin enjoying the ship immediately while others spend hours waiting for their luggage to arrive. And here's a surprisingly common mistake. Some passengers accidentally pack cruise-specific items inside their checked luggage. Things like printed luggage tags, boarding documents, or even cruise accessories they need during embarkation. Even worse, every year, people hand over their bags and then suddenly realize their passport is inside one of those suitcases. At that point, panic sets in. Thankfully, porters are trained to ask if you have your travel documents with you. But ultimately, the responsibility is yours. Because no matter how beautiful the ship looks sitting in the port, your vacation cannot begin if the one thing you need to board is somewhere inside a suitcase that's already disappeared. And speaking of things that disappear quickly on embarkation day, the next mistake involves something many passengers wait too long to do, and by the time they realize it, the opportunity is already gone. Number 4. Sneaking prohibited items on board. Packing for a cruise isn't the same as packing for a regular vacation. A cruise ship is like a small floating city, with its own security procedures, safety regulations, and a surprisingly long list of prohibited items. And one of the biggest mistakes you can make on embarkation day is trying to sneak something on board that isn't allowed. Some items are obvious. Things like clothing irons, steamers, candles, and certain appliances are prohibited because they can create fire hazards. But other restrictions catch people completely by surprise. For example, some Caribbean destinations have strict laws regarding camouflage-patterned clothing. What seems like a perfectly normal shirt or pair of shorts at home can actually create problems in certain countries. That's why experienced cruisers never assume that an item is automatically allowed. They verify first. Because the consequences can be frustrating. If you pack a prohibited item in your carry-on, your boarding process can come to an abrupt stop at the security checkpoint. Instead of heading onto the ship and beginning your vacation, you'll be standing off to the side while security inspects your belongings. And if you try putting the item inside your checked luggage, that doesn't solve the problem either. Your suitcase still goes through screening. If security flags your bag, it will be pulled aside for inspection. Then something else happens. You arrive at your cabin, excited to unpack, only to discover that your luggage hasn't arrived. Instead, you'll usually find a note asking you to report to the security office. Now, instead of relaxing by the pool or grabbing lunch, you're spending your first hours on board dealing with an avoidable problem. And unfortunately, this happens on almost every cruise. The good news is that avoiding it is incredibly simple. Before you pack, spend 5 minutes reviewing your cruise line's prohibited items list. That's it. 5 minutes of preparation can save you from delays, unnecessary stress, and a frustrating start to your vacation. Because when it comes to embarkation day, the goal isn't simply getting onto the ship. It's getting on board smoothly, quickly, and ready to enjoy every minute of your vacation. And speaking of things that can unexpectedly delay your first day, the next mistake is one that leaves many passengers hungry, frustrated, and standing in lines much longer than they expected. Number 5. Skipping the muster drill. Now let's talk about something that many first-time cruisers underestimate. The muster drill. As soon as you board the ship, you're excited to explore. You want to find the buffet, check out the pool deck, maybe even grab your first drink and officially start your vacation. Because of all that excitement, it's easy to think, "I'll do the safety drill later." That's a mistake. Before the ship can leave port, every single passenger must complete the mandatory safety drill, also known as the muster drill. And this isn't optional. It's a legal requirement. The ship literally cannot depart until every guest has been accounted for. The good news is that the process is much easier than it used to be. Years ago, passengers had to gather in large groups, stand shoulder to shoulder on the deck, and listen to lengthy instructions while wearing life jackets. Thankfully, those days are mostly gone. Today, many cruise lines use a virtual muster system. You simply watch a few short safety videos on the cruise app or on your stateroom television. Then, you visit your assigned assembly station, where a crew member quickly scans your cruise card. The entire process usually takes just a few minutes. But here's the problem. Embarkation day is incredibly busy. You're exploring the ship, taking pictures, unpacking your bags, and trying to remember everything at once. And before you know it, you completely forget about the muster drill. Trust me, the crew won't forget. Number 6. Consuming too much alcohol. Vacations are all about relaxing, having fun, and treating yourself a little. And if you've purchased a drink package, it's completely natural to feel like you should make the most of it. After all, you've already paid for it. But one of the biggest mistakes you can make on embarkation day is trying to get your money's worth in the first few hours. Every cruise has passengers who do exactly that. They board the ship, head straight to the nearest bar, and start ordering drinks one after another. At first, it feels like the perfect way to kick off the vacation. A few hours later, it's a completely different story. Instead of enjoying sail away, exploring the ship, or having a great dinner, they're fighting a headache, feeling nauseous, and wondering why they feel terrible on the very first day of their trip. And honestly, losing your first evening to a hangover is bad enough. But there's another reason this mistake can become much more serious: travel insurance. Many travel insurance policies include clauses that may limit or even deny coverage if an accident occurs while you're intoxicated. Think about that for a moment. A simple slip near the pool, a fall on the stairs, or another alcohol-related incident could potentially turn into a major financial problem if your claim isn't covered. That's a risk most people never even think about. There's also something else many first-time cruisers underestimate. The combination of sun, heat, and salty sea air can dehydrate you much faster than you expect. Even people who rarely feel the effects of alcohol on land sometimes discover that drinks hit differently at sea. That's why experienced cruisers follow a simple rule: enjoy your drinks, but pace yourself. Drink water between alcoholic beverages and give your body time to adjust. Number 7. The $1,000 plus cellular data trap. Now pay very close attention to this one. Out of every mistake on this list, this is probably the most expensive, and the scary part is that it can happen without you even realizing it. The mistake? Forgetting to turn off your phone's cellular data before the ship leaves port. At first, everything seems normal. You're taking pictures, texting family members, maybe posting your first cruise photos online. Then the ship begins to sail away. And that's when things change. Once you're out at sea, your phone can automatically connect to the ship's satellite cellular network, often called cellular at sea. It sounds harmless. It isn't. This service operates completely differently from your normal cell plan. In most cases, those charges are not included in your domestic plan, and they're often not included in international plans either. And the rates can be absolutely shocking. Your phone could quietly start using background data for emails, app updates, cloud backups, social media notifications, and countless other processes you don't even notice. Meanwhile, the charges keep building. Hour after hour. Day after day. Then the cruise ends. You get home, check your phone bill, and suddenly you're staring at hundreds or even thousands of dollars in roaming charges. And yes, it happens more often than people think. The good news? Avoiding this mistake is incredibly simple. Before the ship departs, put your phone in airplane mode. No exceptions. If you've purchased the ship's Wi-Fi package, you can manually turn Wi-Fi back on afterward and continue using your apps without activating cellular service. Number 8. Missing the ship's departure. One of the most iconic moments on any cruise happens just once. And surprisingly, many passengers completely miss it. The ship's departure. After all the planning, packing, traveling, and boarding, this is the moment your vacation truly begins. The ship slowly pulls away from the dock, the city skyline starts shrinking in the distance, and suddenly you realize you're leaving the real world behind. But every cruise, some passengers are still inside their cabins. They're unpacking their suitcases, taking showers, organizing their clothes, or exploring indoor areas of the ship. And before they know it, the departure is over. They missed it. Now, it's important to understand something. The sail away party and the sail away experience are two completely different things. The sail away party is the big celebration on the pool deck. There's loud music, dancing, drinks flowing everywhere, and a huge crowd of excited passengers. For some people, it's the perfect way to start a cruise. If that's your style, absolutely join the fun. Just get there a little early because the best spots fill up quickly. But the party itself isn't the important part. The experience is. Many experienced cruisers actually skip the pool deck entirely. Instead, they find their own perfect place. Some watch from the privacy of their balcony. Others head to a forward observation deck to watch the harbor disappear. Some grab a drink at an aft bar and simply sit back, watching the ship's wake stretch across the water. Number 9. Ignoring your cabin steward. Your cabin steward is one of the most important crew members for your comfort during the cruise. Therefore, the mistake you should never make is treating them as if they were invisible. Their job goes far beyond simply making the bed and changing towels. They are also responsible for delivering important documents to your cabin, such as port information and even final disembarkation instructions. On the first day, make an effort to introduce yourself. This helps create a good relationship from the start and is also the ideal time to make initial requests, such as asking for extra pillows, adjusting the bed configuration, or even asking to empty the minibar. But keep in mind that embarkation day is extremely busy for them, so you may not even see them until the second day. If this happens, don't worry. A great tip for any non-urgent request is simply to leave a polite note in the cabin. They will appreciate this consideration amidst the hustle and bustle, and it ensures their needs are met. A small effort to create this connection on the first day makes all the difference throughout your trip. Number 10. Going straight to your cabin. Number 10. Don't go straight to your cabin as soon as you board the ship. If you're one of the first to come aboard, the mistake you should never make is assuming your stateroom will already be available and ready for use. Going straight to your cabin expecting to find it fully prepared will usually only lead to frustration. In most cases, cabin corridors are blocked while cabin stewards are working, and rooms are only officially available to guests in the afternoon, usually between 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. That said, sometimes the doors may be unlocked earlier, allowing you to leave your carry-on luggage there before heading out to explore the ship, but don't count on it. Instead, use this time wisely. Take the opportunity to have lunch, walk around the decks, and get to know the ship's layout. This is also a good reason to be strategic with your boarding time. If you plan to bring drinks like soda or wine, it might be best to choose a later arrival time so you don't have to spend hours lugging everything around the ship.